So, hi, my name is Shakun, and right now, as Manasvi said, I'm working as a specialist in Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. But I would like to tell one thing that I'm not a public administration professional by education. I've shifted from code engineering background. By education, like computer science engineer from Manipal University, Jaipur, and then I also did my post graduation in data analytics. So my journey from being an engineer to shifting into public administration and public policy was kind of an adventurous journey, because this journey started from the COVID-19 pandemic, where I was still in my third year of college, and I got an opportunity to intern with the deputy commissioner of my hometown, Dhanbad, Jharkhand. So I started from there. Even though the internship was just for 2 months, but based on the innovative initiative that I started launching back in those days, my internship got extended for 14 months. I passed my college in say June of 2021, but my internship kept on going till October 2021, right? And after that, I joined the health department in Jharkhand only, and there I started promoting digital health, and especially Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, which has been launched by the Government of India. I was looking after that and some pandemic response also, because the second wave of COVID and the third wave of COVID stuck during that time only. I worked in health department for about 16 months, and then I moved to agriculture department in the Directorate of Agriculture in Jharkhand only, in Ranchi. And there I was managing one of the star scheme of Jharkhand government, Birsa Gram Sir Krishak Pathshala, which is establishing 100 for example, crop cycling and all of those things. So I was there just for 4 months, but because around that time I got the opportunity here in of Principal Scientific Advisor's office, and here I've been working for more than about 1.5 years now. And over the 1.5 years, my roles and responsibilities in this office has grown drastically. I would say my job description at that time, like 1.5 years back, was say X. So right now it's like 20 to 30X. Earlier, I was just expected to give advice on how like we can improve the different portals under Office of PSA, different initiatives. But right now I'm also leading few of the bilateral initiatives of Office of PSA and few bilateral talks also, right? So yeah, this is about my journey. Even though like I'm code computer science engineer, but now I've realized that my true calling is in public sector, and I do for this. I guess I have sacrificed my life in corporates. Like I did have an opportunity to join Dell and Microsoft and earn way more than what I'm earning now, because in public service the money is lesser as compared to corporates, but at the same time the exposure is much larger than in corporates.
Great. That's very nice listening to you, your journey, your career growth. So I'll begin with some questions that we have prepared.
Sure.
What exactly inspired your shift, as you even talked about, from engineering to public administration? So, and to the extent that you left a job at Microsoft and went on to work in public administration.
Officer for home isolation in the district, right? So one of the instance was there. It's a like very emotional story. So there was a family. who was COVID positive, right? And as per the norms back then, anyone above 45 had to be admitted in the hospital. So it was a family of three. So husband and wife was COVID positive. They had a baby of just 6 months old who was COVID negative. So if we followed the norms, that would mean separating the parents from the newborn child. So they requested me a lot, and I did understand. And then I realized, ki, okay, I do hold that much of responsibilities, where like I can like. But like remdesivir, if it reaches to some beneficiary, it needs to have some approval process, and I was in line of that approval process. So it was more like you are entrusting me with someone's life, right? Because remdesivir was at that time was thought to be like life. Kind of discomfort, just I'm a call away. I'll arrange everything for you. But because of this social stigma of being called out as a you know COVID positive patient, they didn't call me. And I was in office one day, and then I just get a call from my mother that saying ki okay, this particular bhaiya who is in our neighbor, he passed away last night because he's like what 35 years old. So all of these experiences made me think, ki, okay, rather than going to corporates, I should continue in the public administration and public policy, social development sector. So this is how I started working there. And like while working, I did realize that there are some shortcomings in government itself, which I think that I can fulfill. So this was another motivation for me to even pursue social development sector further.
I feel many of us can relate with COVID stories that you talked about, because
Mm.
it was a very difficult phase for many of us.
Yes.
Many of us lost our near and dear ones, or maybe our neighbors, people whom we knew very well. So that's something which was a very hard thing to talk about.
Yes.
But yes, it definitely helped you to look at and think about your calling, that it was this that you wanted to work towards, and not definitely not engineering or a job,
Yes.
a corporate job. Yeah.
Yes.
Moving on, what exactly are your key responsibilities as a specialist in IT and digital services in the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to the GUI?
Okay. So my key responsibilities, like when I started, it was only like giving, guidance on how we can further improve the quality of service that were being delivered by different initiatives of Office of PSA's online applications, right? So one of them being Manthan and Office of PSA's website as well, and a few other initiatives. So I was working for that, and around that time G20 was also happening, right, last year. So I started contributing towards G20 CSR, Chief Science Advisors Roundtable, as well. So around, then I started getting involved in multiple bilateral talks as well. And recently, I'm pleased to say that on 24th and 25th of January this month, we are hosting a technology dialogue in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, where like multiple ministers, Indian ministers as well as foreign ambassadors and foreign ministers are also going to come. So I'm also involved in that work, uh, organizing such events. And apart from that, it's also like handling some operational works. For example, we have like few vendors who takes care of a lot of our tasks, right? So I also interact with them and try to make sure that everything is in line and as per the expectations of the office of PSA. Along with that, I also do pitch in sometimes for a few of the initiatives on national importance. For example, waste to wealth. You must be aware of ANRF, Anusandhan National Research Foundation, right? So I am also pitching on that, along with the recently launched initiative, One Nation One Subscription, which basically tries to reduce the burden on a lot of institutes to have the subscription of different publishers. So now in Indian government will be providing access to about 30 publishers free of cost to all the institutes. Right now, in phase one, it's just central and state institutes, but overall, like in next 5 to 7 years, it will be rolled out to even libraries and private institutes. So I'm working for like other initiatives of office as well.
The work mainly involves working on projects which are currently ongoing in the government, if I can.
Yes. Yes.
And what about, like, is there a particular department which would focus also on telling the people, making the people aware about the policies that you are implementing or curating for them?
Yes. So actually, uh, every office has a communications team, right? So communications team is primarily responsible for putting out information on social media or say publishing press releases of various events or various meetings, right? So that's the work of communications team. I work very closely with the communications team as well, where sometimes in their absence I take up their work as well. So it's like uh, a lot of people. And I am literally right now short staffed,
Definitely,
so I
definitely
am
a very
hiding.
hard work, hard job to do.
Yeah, actually, sometimes I tend to work like non-stop for like 36, 37 hours. Right? I just spend whole like I come back from the office, I start working, I work till I am supposed to go to the office. Very
I
hectic
mean,
in
it's a
this
very hard
office.
job considering all of that you need to do. You need to handle other departments as well. So, yes, definitely. Moving on, what exactly would you say is the difference between public administration and public policy, and what would be the job prospects in both of these areas?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question because people tend to get confused between these two domains, right? Public administration and public policy. There are few similarities between these two, but the major stark difference would be the public administration is all about implementation, right? There's less of research involved, right? While public policy is where the policies originate. So before a public comes into effect, there needs to be a lot and lot of research that take an example of Manrega, right? Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, right? Or say Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So these are being implemented. So generally, these are being implemented by, say, the district at the district level by the deputy commissioner. So they are now the concept of project management units who actually support the deputy commissioner in implementing these initiatives, right? So this is one of the job prospect that you can get into some kind of big four companies, or say even World Bank, Asian Development Bank, WHO, and everything, and then support the district administration in effective for example, interdisciplinary research and credit transfers, this and that. So how we can have this kind of framework in India? So that's the job of policy professionals. So the job prospect in public policy would be, you can join a lot of think tanks. One, if we are talking about think tanks, the government think tank, if we talk about, is Niti Aayog, right? So Niti Aayog keeps on hiring people with public policy background so that they can research, and Niti Aayog can further advise different departments of the government on what policies should come and how it should be implemented, right? So one is Niti Aayog, other would be World Bank, UNDP. When they try to pitch in for public policy, or there are multiple NGOs, for example, Gates and Melinda Foundation, or ONGC, SBI. So these people do tend to hire public policy professionals. And if we take an example, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, the ex RBI governor, right? He was very instrumental. So these are public administrators, right? So they are not making the policies at a later stage of life after they get promoted and all. So at the very latest stage, they do come into framing these policies, but for most of their life, they are mainly involved in implementation of such schemes, programs, initiatives.
Very great to hear about the difference between both of these things, because people many a times use both of these terms interchangeably and confuse it.
Yeah.
Yes. Moving on, how exactly has IT transformed public administration in India?
So IT has now started becoming the forefront in governance, right? Because right now people have started in having the scope of, say, IT in each and every policy, right? So right now IT is basically reserved for, say, monitoring and evaluation purposes of multiple schemes, initiatives, because until unless we are not utilizing ICT mediums, we can't properly say judge if the schemes are being implemented correctly, right? Because earlier, as you are aware, there's this stereotype as well that government departments work on pen and paper mode, and like files move slowly, this and that. So now IT are being implemented like in various aspects of each and every department. For example, like I said, the files move very slowly. So what the possible solution, how we can have IT to resolve this issue? So now government have also introduced e-filing system, where now the files are being moved electronically. We don't now maintain, physical files, like jo in movies we must have seen these big files, right? So now that's not the case. So it is still in the implementation phase. In one thing which I've realized is this is not being implemented effectively in grassroots level governance, right? But in central level, this is a very common practice right now. So IT can also be utilized for public service delivery, right? So if we have like use IT for automation, right? Because one thing which like you must be knowing about direct beneficiary transfer, benefit transfer, like subsidies which are given to beneficiaries. So those can be automated, right? Because earlier, like beneficiaries used to go to the office, write a form, say yes, yes, so and so thing. So just a second. Yeah, so like automation of various day-to-day tasks, right? For example, beneficiary monetary subsidies, this and that can be automated. So this is how another example how IT is being used in governance. Another thing which you must be aware of, there's this concept called digital public infrastructure. Okay, so digital public infrastructure says ki what all things should be there in a nation which can make day-to-day life of a citizen easier. One of those aspect of digital public infrastructure is finance as well. So India launched UPI back in 2016 as part of this DPI only. And now you see how like UPI has eased all of our lives. So this is the other example which you can say ki how like IT is transforming governance step by step, slowly and slowly.
So, as you talked about how IT has definitely made digital transactions and everything also easier, and we can do it from the convenience of our homes itself. So, that's something which has definitely transformed the entire digital infrastructure of the country in a way.
Yeah.
I would also like to talk about you have pursued a postgraduate program in data analytics from Purdue University.
Hmm.
So, how exactly has that program influenced your work?
Okay, so my program in data analytics helped quite a lot during my time in agriculture department, right? Because at that time, since we were dealing with multiple farmers, like you can say all the farmers in that state, right? And under the mandate of the scheme that I was working on, Krishak Pathshala, we also had to see ki in each and every these schools that we are setting, 100 schools across the state. So what all things should be there? So how can we like see ki what all things should be there? For that we needed a lot of data, right? For example, if we are talking about a certain section or certain area of the state, they are say growing paddy, or someone is growing bajra, or someone is just growing potatoes, onions, those things. So how can we benefit from that? That also needed to be cross referenced with the climate of that area, because as you are aware, Jharkhand lies in Chota Nagpur Plateau, right? So the geography of the region varied from one place to another. Like in just 200 kilometers, you will see like everything's changed. At a point, you will see just plains. Another time, you will see mountains, right? So that also needed to be cross-referenced with the geography. So all these data sets were available from with various government departments. So we did collate all these information, various information, and cross-referenced it with the kind of insights that we want. State like Jharkhand, people also like have pigs as livestock. So we also use that data and then realize that okay, so in say place like Dumka, Dumka is a very one of the district in Jharkhand. So in Dumka, we need to promote growing crop, promote crop cycling, so that farmers don't rely on just a single crop which grows only in one season of the year. Because if they are doing that, that will happen. What will happen? Ki they can only grow a certain crop for say 5 months of a year. Next 7 months is the land is just empty. So what if they are planting one crop at one season, next crop in another season? So that also helps in replenishing of the soil, say nitrogen fixation and all of those things. So we based on all the insights that we got from all this data, so there were data set uh, around 2 crore thing. So we use data analytics to gain insightful data based on that. I still think that I could have used the same during my work in health department or COVID for better identification of hotspot zones. But I was able to do my post graduation after like the COVID era ended.
But just a question. So when you try to analyze such a large amount of data, so does that create any problems as such?
Problems like
Problems maybe like technical problems, for instance, because
yeah. So the problem which you may have in these scenarios is how clean your data is, right? Because to analyze something, all the data should be of the same data type, right? For example, if you say there's imagine an Excel column, right? That supposed to have numbers, but in between you just add one text, a character. Now if you will try to say do an auto sum for that particular column, it will not generate that, right? So one of the major challenge in doing data analytics is this also, that the data that we are receiving needs to be clean. If it's not clean, then we do have to do it manually, because at that time obviously multiple AI tools was not there which can do these kind of tasks for us. Right now there are, but still like if we want to do like data cleaning of such a large data set, even AI tool fails. If it's small data set, AI can do it because that requires a lot of computing power, right? And computing power is not free, it's damn expensive.
yes, definitely. And in general, while implementing these e-governance initiatives, any challenges that you face, not technical, but apart from that?
Yes. So, like, I would say that like three major challenges. Like, if I put it in like buckets, one of the primary challenge, which I would say, is digital literacy across India. Right. Any area like section of rural India, then you would see ki people still use a diary to maintain phone numbers. They don't trust mobile to store phone numbers. They'll still write the numbers in a diary. So the major challenge still would be digital literacy, but as and when like we are progressing, there's like change in digital literacy as and when we grow. For example, when we are talking about Gen X in rural India, they would be quite hesitant in using technology. Not just, I'm not talking about just e-governance, but technology in general, right? But when we are talking about Gen Z or millennials, even in rural India, you will see them scrolling Instagram reels, YouTube shorts, and all of those things. Even they are aware of what is Netflix, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that rural India, in terms of digital literacy, is about 20 years behind than urban India. Like a ballpark figure, if I'd say, it's about 20 years, right? And because of this like hesitant to use technology, they would like, and government pushing e-governance, now you see there's a gap. Government wants you to use e-governance, but the people are hesitant to use e-governance because of digital literacy. To bridge this particular gap, a concept was launched, I guess somewhere around 2010 or something of that sort, called Common Service Centers in rural India, basically. So you can imagine CSCs, Common Service Centers, as cyber cafes, where the mandate of these CHC centers was to make people utilize e-governance schemes that we have. For example, even for beneficiary transfers under deep, like digital public infrastructure, which I told, or like money transfers, net banking, this and that. These CHC people can help these cities, public which are residing in rural India to uh, like do these things, right? So one is digital literacy, another I would say is resistance to change. Right? Resistance to change is major uh, challenge in implementing any e-governance initiative, because I remember when I was working like implementing various initiatives back in Dhanbad, Ranchi and all. So, government officers, like especially the older government officers, they have this tendency कि ठीक है काम चल रहा है चलने दो ना, बीच में क्या नया ये लाडू. So they have this inertia कि okay, they don't want to move like from pen and paper to digital working style. This is also one of the major reason for failure of e-filing system, which I gave an example like a few minutes back, right? So they have this like inertia of not to change, resistance. Even though if you try to convince them ki how easy this would make their work only, rather than you working for like 10 hours in a week for such task, you only have to work 30 minutes in a week. Still, they would prefer to work like 10 hours over 30 minutes in a week.
Interesting to hear about, and I mean, it's something which I did not know about, and it's interesting to talk about. And yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
so I would actually suggest that if you like just Google quantum technologies, you'd be amazed at what are the capabilities of quantum computing, quantum technologies in general. Because one very basic example which I told you, ki, like uh, if it takes your laptop to do a task, it will take for say 200 years. It takes your laptop. That same task can be achieved in like less than 30 minutes, right? So that also poses some serious risk at the same time. It's not just like a la la land always, right? Because if such things do come into existence right now, it will make our existing infrastructure of security obsolete in a second. Because when we are talking about cyber security in general, we want to have such a standard that it's hard to get your password. Even if we do get your password, it's always in a hash, like encrypted form, right? So we want such an like we right now do have an algorithm where it takes like more than 500 to decrypt it if your password is complex enough. So it will take 500 years. But what if quantum computing comes in tomorrow? Now there would be serious threat, because now I can get your password in like less than 30 minutes. So at the same time, when we are developing quantum computing, we also need to see and develop similar algorithms that can be as secure as today for quantum computers. That even for quantum computers, it takes like 300 years to crack your password. So that's a
so
yeah.
as you talked about earlier as well, that in public policy, you need to look at various different possibilities that can happen. Even a small event might lead to something which you must have not even imagined. So you need to look at various different possibilities. So I think
Yes.
that's something which needs to be imagined even here when we talk about integration of AI and quantum computing. We need to look at every small possibility that might happen.
Exactly. Yes.
So as we've talked a lot about digital infrastructure and everything and how emerging technologies might be implemented in the future, what exactly would you say are your future goals in public administration?
Okay, so I would say like in my goal would be promoting data sharing policy further, because right now the data sharing policy that we have in India is back 2012, 2013 kind of thing. right? Right now, since we are having like getting so much data at the same time, and there's also a phenomena where like I'll give an example. Say when we're say example from COVID, right? During COVID, there were multiple web application portals being launched by the government. Okay, one was to see your bed occupancy, one was to see your stock in that particular hospital, one was to see have these oxygen requirements, one was to see how much oxygen you do have. Like just imagine for a single hospital you have like 10 different portals. Generally what happens in a grassroots level, there's just one computer operator who is entering these data into 10 different portals. While entering these information, what he'll have to do, he'll have to enter the same information again and again. Because when we are saying about oxygen cylinders, requirement of oxygen cylinders, it will ask for the number of beds that you have in that hospital. You have already given that information in the first portal where you were saying about your current bed occupancy rate, right? So all of these portals work in silos. They don't have synergy in between, right? Under data sharing policy, what I envision is, what if we can combine all these different portals into one single portal, so that the person doesn't need to do repetitive task again and again. When this is achieved, the same information can be linked to other say department's portal as well, right? And then with another. Similarly, if we go like this, just imagine as a web of data, be, be whatever the port of entry for that particular web. But that data can traverse through web and reach somewhere else. Rather than each and every department, each and every program having the data in silo in their own data center. Rather than having that, let's have a web of data, a common pool of data where the same information can be used by any ministry, because that will also help in two different ways. Say there's a beneficiary, say below poverty line, right? If he wants to get benefit some benefits under multiple government schemes, what will happen that he needs to go and register for, say, social welfare scheme X, social welfare scheme Y, right? But his data is already registered under below poverty line, right? There's no synergy between this data and these two particularly schemes data, right? What if we just link it with this BPL data? X and Y, we link it with BPL data. Now we know exact number of beneficiaries already before even implementing. If we have these data already in hand, then we can again link these data with, say, another system, say PFMS, which is for automating benefit. He'll automatically get the benefits of that particular scheme, or say n different schemes, automatically on his bank account. So that helps in reducing paperwork, reducing human effort, human intervention, and automating each and every process of governance.
That would also definitely increase convenience in terms of like the customers or the people, and it would be very well efficient in the sense that people would be able to register for various different schemes in one go itself. So that would definitely help them. And even like I feel like many people might not even be aware of certain schemes, so they would be able to register for them and get to know about them. So that would be a very great way to make them aware about it as well. Yeah, like that's very great to hear from you, sir. And we had a lovely time talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us. We will